Okay, we're going to go from zero SQL to running SQL queries. SQLite is a GUI interface for writing SQL code. It's pretty slick, it's pretty compact, it's pretty small. The only problem with it, you can't import CSV files. To get around that, we're going to use SQLite command line to import CSV files. After you go to the Microsoft website and you type in SQLite Trek, this page will come up and you want to hit Get. And this will download it from the Microsoft Store. Then you just click Install. Now we can either launch it from the Microsoft Store, right? Or we can go down here to our search bar and type SQLite Trek and then just open up the app. Okay, so SQLite Trek is open. What we're going to do is we're going to click on New Database to show you how pretty easy it is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder on my C drive, and I'm going to call it SQLite. So I'm just going to make a new folder down here, and I call it SQLite, and then hit Open. And then I'm just going to type fun. You could name this whatever you want. Fun with SQLite. That's going to be the name of my database. Hit save. And then it shows up right here. Currently, we don't have a table in it. We're going to refresh it, but we don't have a table. We haven't made one yet. So we need to make a new table. So we're going to click on New Query. Okay, then I'm going to type Create Table. Right? We're going to create a table. And we'll name it Persons. This is just a fun table I'm making, right? And then the first column in the table is going to be person ID, and it's going to be an integer data type. And the next one's going to be last name, and it's going to be a string of characters, at most 50 characters long. And then first name, and it's going to be a string of characters, again, at most 50 characters long. And then I need their major in school. And then I'm going to type age, and that's going to be an integer. There's not going to be any comma here because it's going to be the last, that's the last column. And then I'm going to close the parenthesis with a semicolon. Now I'm going to kind of clean this up a little bit. You can put as many spaces as you want. One space is the same as 50 spaces, but it's common to kind of line up your data types here so it looks nicer. And then we can run that. And it looks like everything ran well. Okay, now we can do a new query to see what we created. So I'm going to type select. Asterisk means all. I'm going to select all from persons. And then I'm going to click run. And you can see that we have a blank table here, right? We need to fill it up with some information. So we're going to click on new query. And we're going to type insert into persons some data, right? We got the person ID, the last name, first name, city, major, and age. Okay. Now I'm going to go back through and put some commas in here to separate these. Okay, now we need the values, right? We need to know what values they are. So the first value we're going to put in is, we're going to type values. We're going to put, this is basically the first row of your table. Values. And the person ID is going to be 1. It's going to be the first person, first row. And this person's name, and I'm going to go ahead and just do this real quick. I'm going to copy some, I'm going to copy this over and over and over, kind of make it easier on myself. And then all we got to do is put information in. Okay, this person's last name happens to be Jordan. And that person's first name happens to be Michael. And then Michael lives in Chicago, maybe. And his major, of course, is economics. And, oh, I don't need this right here. I just need to type in his age. And he's 23, right? And then I can put a semicolon there. Okay. Now I want to maybe add 2 lines to this table, right? So I'm going to copy this with Control C. And then I'm going to paste it here. And then all I'm going to do is go through here and change it to maybe my information. I'm 52. My PhD major was economics. I live in Salt Lake City. My name is Hal, and my last name is Snar, and then I'm in the second row. Okay, then we can hit run, and it looks like we got rows inserted. We'll go back to our previous query. We'll click run, and both our rows are there, right? So we just built a table. Now the problem with this is we can't import a file from an Excel worksheet saved as a CSV file, a comma separated values file. And I'll show you an example of one. In my C drive, I have a bunch of different data files in my data folder. Let's just open up property. This data actually came from a student project. And you can see we got property ID, address, city, state, zip code, and then we have list price for a lot of different properties, right? And it's saved as a comma separated value file, right? It's a flat file, right? There's no way to import it into SQLite Trek. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our website here, and we're going to find the Windows SQLite tools. This zip folder has the command line shell that we want. So I'm going to click on this and download it. And then I'm going to open up the zip file down here. It has a little zipper on it. So this is a compressed folder, a compressed file. When I double click on this to open up the compressed folder file, I get something with the same name and the folder's open. This is uncompressed, right? So I'm going to open that up, and all we really need here is this SQLite 3.exe program. And I'm just going to drag it into Windows C. Hit continue. I'm going to open up the Windows C folder. And remember, I made that SQLite folder here. I'm just going to then just drag it into SQLite and hit continue. Okay, now I open up the SQLite folder, and I have my fun with SQLite DB that we just created in Trek, right? SQLite Trek. Then I also have my program here. Now you can't run this program. You have to use command line, right? You have to use command line prompt. So I'm going to go ahead and close out the web page. I'm going to minimize that. And I need to make sure I get something here. I'm going to get the path. Here's the path to the program. So I'm going to copy that path. Then I'm going to type CMD to get the command prompt. There's the command prompt, right? Okay, so right now it's putting me in my local drive hsnar. So that's right here. You got the C drive users directory and the hsnar directory. And if you look in here, there's no SQL, right? There's no SQL programs in here. So what we have to do to run SQLite 3 is we have to change this prompt here to C:/SQLite. So the way that we do that, we're going to change the directory with CD, and then we're going to type C:/SQLite. And when I hit enter, the prompt changes. I'm going to type SQLite 3 to start the program, come up with a name for a database, and maybe I'll use property. I'll call it property DB, and I'll hit enter to run it. Now I'm doing this to import the CSV file, right? Okay. Notice that the cursor changed, SQLite. To demonstrate this comma separated values file type, I'm going to open it in Notepad. So I got to find it. It's in my C drive of my laptop, and then I got to go down to data. It's in my data folder. I'm going to change it to all files. I'm going to look for the property.csv file, right? It has an Excel icon next to it, but I'm going to click on it, and you can see here that property ID is separated from address by a comma, city, zip code, list, etc. So this first property has a property ID of 101. It has an address, the zip code is 84105, and the last one is the list price, okay? And the commas are where the columns are created, right? So the next thing I need to do in SQLite is type dot separator, and then a comma in quotations. I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so we need to import the property file, right? And the path to import it it's in the data directory, right? So over here we're going to type dot import space, and then we're going to do, we don't need to do the C, we just need to do the slash data and then slash and then the name of the file. And then what we want to do is we want to name the table. Let's just review here. So we're going to import, right? We're going to import, and the path to the file is data property.csv. That's the path. And then we're going to name the table property. So property is going to be a table inside the property DB database. We hit enter. All right. Now we can type tables with a period in front of it, and we can enter, and we can see that property is a table in the database property DB. So now what we want to do is we're going to save it as a DB file. So we're going to save property, and then we're going to type DB. We're going to save it, and then we hit enter. Okay, now if we go back to our SQLite folder, we're going to see, oh, there's property DB right there. That's our database, and this is our table, property.db. So now we can go over to SQLite. We can click open. When you go to SQLite, Okay, so I have all files down here. The default is SQLite databases. So I'll go to all files. Well, you see that one we created, right? Where we inserted Michael Jordan and myself into a table that we created. Then we got the property DB, and then we got, this is the table, and this is the database, right? So let's click on property.db. And if you go down here and you click the little arrow here, you can see that our property table's in there, right? Let's just do let's do a new query on that. So we got to click on, we want to make sure we click on property DB, and then we want to do new query. Okay, in this new query, let's just do select all from property and hit run. That's cool, huh? So this is the entire table. We looked at it in Excel, we looked at it in Notepad, and now we're looking at it in SQLite. Okay, here's a more advanced query. We're selecting city, column city, out of property. We're going to average list price column out of property. And then we're going to call it average of list price. And again, we're pulling it from the property table. Then we're going to group by property city in the property table. And we're going to order by average property.list price. Now we could either have that or we could have its name, right? So yeah, we could do this too if we wanted to, right? We could order by that. It doesn't matter how we do that. Now I'll go ahead and run it. And we got a bit of a problem here. We got some decimal issues, right? So we're going to go back up here and we're going to type round in front of average. And after that, we're going to type a 2, and we'll rerun it again to make the data look a little nicer. Okay, so now we got 2 decimal place averages, right? Okay, we may want the top 5 too. So what we can do to get the top 5, okay, so we put limit 5 after order by and run. Oh, we want the top 5, so we need descending. That's the bottom 5. We need the top 5. So we're going to hit descending, and we'll get the top 5. So this is 1.3 million, and then 639,000, 567,000, 566,000, 566,000. Okay, we can make this a little simpler too. We can get rid of, because all these columns come from the same table, we can get rid of property. So we can simplify this up a little bit. So anywhere you see property except for the from part, you can delete the property dot. And if we run this, we'll get the same thing, right? So you only need if there's multiple tables involved in your query, you need the property table prefix in front of each of the column names, right? And then, of course, we can maybe make this a little, we can just do average, maybe average list. And then we can maybe copy this here to there. So I think it looks pretty intuitive now, right? Because we're selecting city, we're selecting the round of the average of list price, which we are calling average list. Both those come from property. We're grouping by city, and we're ordering by average list in descending order, and we're limiting it to 5. Okay? Now here's something else you could do. I haven't tried this yet, but let's just see if we can do an SQLite. I'm going to go ahead and just copy that code I just wrote. And this right here is just basically when you're in SQLite Trek in the GUI and you hit enter here to go to the next line, that's what this is indicating here. And you're terminating all this code, this one chunk of code, with the semicolon. And if you hit enter, you get the same exact thing that we got in SQLite Trek. You get the same exact numbers. See that? So you could do, you can either use the SQL Trek or you could use the SQLite command prompt. And that's SQL from 0 to 80 in about 20 minutes.